Hi everybody, my name is Richard Michael Owen here at Owen Automotive, and I'm restoring this 1957 Jaguar XK150 fixed head. I'll show you how it's done. So here's the car before restoration, and I know what you're immediately thinking. Richard, this doesn't need a restoration. It looks fine as it is. But lucky for us, we have a really incredible owner that's going to let us document and show everybody what is lurking underneath the metal and really figure out why this car is getting restored. And it'll be pretty obvious once we start getting into the details, but from 10 feet away here as we pan around the car, it's not so obvious. So before we begin the restoration, one thing I like to do is a thorough evaluation of the car. And one aspect of this is taking these photographs that are taken with a really long lens to avoid any vertical distortion. And what that does is it gives us a very accurate picture of how the car looks from the front, back, and the side. So here we are, we got a great image of the shot, dead on, and it really lets us see how symmetric this car is. And for me, symmetry really means a lot. When I look at a car, I don't like to see headlights going wayward, bumpers crooked, bodywork going this way and that way. And a lot of these cars really do from the factory have a lot of discrepancy. This car is no exception, actually. If we look at the passenger side fender, it actually sits a little low, especially around the valance underneath the bumper. It really goes down and dips down a little further than the driver's side, and that kind of bugs me. And so hopefully we'll be able to adjust that in the metalwork. And it also seems to have a larger gap on the hood on the passenger side. A couple other things, there's a cooling fan and a cover that's hiding behind the grill, and that's really ugly, so really got to paint that black. And the fog lights, they seem to be kind of kicking out wrong. And the tires are a little wide for me. I kind of, on these vintage cars, like to see a little narrower of a tire. But other than that, it's looking pretty good. I like this car from the front. Moving on to the rear, there's not too much to complain about here. Maybe the trunk gap's not so great. The passenger side looks a little tight. The bumper's nice and parallel. If I had to complain, maybe just that bumper guard on the driver's side could be kicked over a little bit. But other than that, the rear looks really nice. Looking at the passenger side here, this looks wonderful. Really no complaints. The only thing that catches my eye are the door gaps. And the driver's side here, got door gaps again. It seems like the fender, the front fender, the lower sill line, it might be kicking down a little bit towards the tire on the sill, and that's quite normal for these things. Some of them kind of have a fender sill line that droops downward, and some they're just dead straight across. It'd be nice to get this car dead straight across, but I don't know if that's possible without a lot of work. Okay, back to panning around the car. Really going to get this thing in the shop and show you guys the complete journey now of stripping this thing down to nothing, putting it on a rotisserie, respecting the metal as best as we can, and coming up with a product that I think will be really nice for the YouTube and for my customer. I think this is going to be a spectacular car. It came up from California. My customer bought it on Bring a Trailer. It really has no rust or no accidents, and it's the kind of car that I really like to restore, where you're looking at original fits and finishes and hardware, and I think that will make for a spectacular restoration. So let's get this thing in the shop and see what we got. All right, here we are back at Owen Automotive. Got the car in the shop, ready to begin its full rotisserie restoration. Would you believe it? It's going to be a lot of hours and a lot of passion put into this car. The first thing I want to do is take off the bumpers. I want to send them to electroplating right away and get them re-chromed. We're right now in the middle of the COVID-19 outbreak, and they need the business and I need them to do these restorations. So I'm going to give them the bumpers and the bumper guards and get those done. From a distance, it doesn't look like these need to be done, but if you start to look in detail, there's just stuff that needs to be addressed. For instance, there's a lot of scratching in here. I'll show you a picture of what I mean. I'm gonna go to the rear here, and you'll see some edges which are really rough and not in keeping with a show level car. See that edge right there? It's not very nice. Come over to the passenger side, it's a little worse. Yeah, look at that right there. So we'll get these bumpers off and see what they look like off of the car. Maybe dig into the trunk a little bit too. Yeah, just getting underneath the car here. You can see the way the bumper's fastened at the rear. Got these big brackets. It's kind of a double bracket. And one thing I really like to see is all the original bolt hardware up there. Isn't that sweet? So yeah, we'll take that out really carefully and see what it looks like off the car. There it is. Right on. Ready for the racetrack now. I like the lightweight. Look at that. There it is with the bumper off, looking a lot more sporting. And here's all the hardware for the rear bumper. Quite a lot going on here. Definitely want to take a picture and see how all these brackets go. That way we know exactly how to put this thing back together. One thing I'll notice that all this hardware actually came apart pretty easy, and that's a good sign that we have a really uncorroded car. On anything that's seen any salt or any corrosion, you're always busting off the nuts and having a real time getting this bumper hardware out of the frame. But this one, it just fell apart, so that's really awesome. One thing I'll note, have to be really, really careful with these carriage bolts, these chrome-headed carriage bolts. They're only retained by the outer bumper, and so I heated up the nut here to make sure they came apart. Look at the underside of the bumper. It's painted black, not sure if that's original, but it's really important to protect this side of the chrome work. You don't want it rusting from the inside out. And so yeah, if anybody knows if this is supposed to be originally black or not, please let me know. Bumper guards are looking really good. A little, really nice. And here you can really see the texture, how Jaguar didn't really finish the inside of the guards as well as the outside. Okay, let's see what this front bumper looks like. Go down in here. Wow, huge bracket, massive bolts. I'm gonna have to deal with the horn up in there. Yeah, but it looks really nice in here. Look at this. This is all looking really fantastic. I imagine on a rusty car, it wouldn't look so nice in the inner fender here. Those gussets. And the apron, the bumper. Yeah, it looks really nice. I have to deal with the fog lights, of course. They look like original fit there with those big washers. Okay, got the good parts hauler here. Yep, the E-Type's still running. You better believe it. Fair weather, everyday driver. Just gonna head to Electroshine. Randy and Georgina, they do show chrome. They do chrome for Pebble Beach and a lot of great cars. And they're just across the highway, so it's a quick dart down the highway. Take you guys along. E-Type's been running well. Got a couple thousand miles on it. Got no interior. It's still really loud, so you probably won't hear me talking once I start this thing. I got the fan hooked up to where it says map here. That's why I can test to make sure my cooling fan works. See if it'll start. There we are. All the gauges are working. The amps gauge flicking a little bit. I don't know. I don't think that's normal. I'm gonna try to get another one in there and see if it does the same thing. I love seeing the repeaters working. Gauges are working nice. Okay, we're off to the races. Take it easy with this load. Move bumpers. Got those bumpers dropped off at Randy here. Does awesome work. Show chrome, the best in the area. Now a quick look at the E-Type here. If you're not familiar, this is the E-Type that I put the junk E-Type motor into. It was a seized motor and we did 12-part series, kind of bringing it back from the dead, and it's running fabulous. I love it. Beautiful balance, smooth engine, can't complain. Life is good. So yeah, I'll be driving this all summer. Hopefully you guys will see a lot of it through the process. But yeah, let's get back to that XK150. There's lots of parts to take off. Yeah, just trying to get this original horn off this bumper bracket. It looks like it maybe has never been off. The nuts there look completely covered over, and I see an original wiring harness going to it. So yeah, this is all looking really good. Gonna get them out and I'll have a closer look once they're out of the car. Okay, look at this. Got the horns on the bench. Gonna figure out what to do with them. They work, so I just kind of want to refinish them. Clean the first one up here. You can see this original gray paint on here. There's a bit of black paint on the back. Not sure if that's original. But I found a picture of an original new old stock unit. You can definitely see this gray tone and all the fasteners here in CAD plated. So that's the way we'll refinish these. And they're pretty impressive horns. I found the original manual on it, probably 10 pages. And it kind of outlines what's going on in here and how to fix this. And there's a points and condenser here. There's a condenser hiding in there, and there's points at the top here. And there's an adjuster screw. And so what I did was I just made sure the adjuster screw's loose and I cleaned the points. I was going to refinish these and put them back together. And you can just see the tags here. This will get CAD plated, but you see HF1748. That's a very common horn. They were used on a lot of Healey's, Jaguars, even their competition cars. And there's a date there, 11th month of 57. So these are a matched set of horns that originally came off the car. So yeah, gonna refinish these, and then once we get them all together, later we can try adjusting this adjustment screw and see if that changes the tone of them or not. Really cool stuff. Glad we have the originals. All right, got all the bumpers and panels off the front end. You can really see the XK120 shining through with these bottom vents that are kind of hidden by the bumper and the body panels. With it off, kind of start noticing things like get really tight here where the hood is, where the hood kind of meets this relief. The paint's not very nice. Doesn't even line up, but I guess it's kind of hidden behind the fog light, so Jaguar never really finished that off quite nicely. Yeah, that panel was attached with 3 bolts, and there was a little buffer at the end here. But if you start looking at the paint here, it's really showing its age. This original lacquer's starting to crack. And the actual panel here shows a lot more. So you can still see the original red oxide primer there and the lacquer cracking. And I think what happened is this car just got, probably in the 80s or 90s, just a recoat, a respray and lacquer, and started to crack now. But that means that this car probably has never really been totally apart. So I'm really enjoying that. These Sylvania halogen lights are gonna go for sure. Those are budget items. They don't belong on a Jaguar at all or any high-end restoration. Having a look at the fog lights that came out. These are really standard fare. You can see Lucas SLR 576. They still make new versions of these that take H4 bulbs. So what I might do is get new fog lights and try to incorporate some of the original bits and pieces, but definitely need a new lens in there, the silver lens. It's got some spidering on it, and that'll need to be replaced. One last thing I'll note is that when I came over here, I noticed some really poor paint work. Don't know if it'll come through on the camera so well. Oh yeah, look at that. See that really dry spot there? There it is. Yeah, really nasty paint work. That's amateur body work. Somebody who didn't bend down and really get enough paint here, and it gets on the body really dry. But yeah, the car's looking really good otherwise. Really amazing piece. We can do a lot of good stuff with this car. All right, got those bumpers off, the horns tended to. Now I'm just gonna give you guys a tour of the interior and go over the reasons why we're gonna replace it in its entirety. Because really from here, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty presentable. And you know, a lot of people will be happy with an interior that looks like this, but in detail, it's not quite there. And it's not gonna be in keeping with the rest of the car once we're done. And I'll go over a couple of things and show you what we found. You see the bottom of the seat, the foam, it isn't right. It kind of sticks out in an odd way. That's not very nice looking. When you look down the seats here, the beading, it's kind of wavy. It's not really consistent. And the carpeting, well, we knew the carpeting had to go. I don't really like the hue of the carpet, but it's just trimmed so poorly around the tunnel, and it's showing its age. And the door seal, yeah, it's seen better days. The headliner, it's pretty good. It's original, but it's going to have to be replaced as well. I'll show you why. It goes all the way back there. If you go around this pillar, shut the door. Seeing through the window here, just looks stained and shrunken, and yeah, it doesn't look very nice right on that leading edge. So we're going to replace the headliner. Now my friend Jeff Chrysler, he owns Right Way Heritage Trimming. He's going to be responsible for doing the interior. He pointed out that the vinyl's all inconsistent. So the door panel doesn't match the vinyl in the back of the car. This armrest isn't looking that great either. It's kind of all over the place. So yeah, we're going to do a complete new red interior for this car. It'll look fabulous. Putting on a new steering wheel too, because that's cracked and wobbly. The overall design of the car is pretty cool. The seats, they fold forward. Got some jump seats in the back, and there's this panel here that'll fold down and let you get into the trunk space, which is pretty cool. So yeah, gonna start ripping this out. We'll have a look, see if we find some original items, see what the floors look like. Here, let's get into it. Okay, got a lot of the interior stripped out here. Seats are long gone, carpets are gone. You can see the floorboards. We got this awful foil covered sound deadening material to lift up. Not a fan of that stuff. There's nothing to reflect in here, so I think the foil is totally pointless. Got the wooden floors. These are probably new floors that were put in like the 80s or 90s during the previous restoration. My dad was saying these access panels here are for the jacking point. You can see in the frame right there. It's kind of a handy way to lift the car. I'm going to give away a bit of a secret here. Have a look at the shift knob. Look at that, 5-speed, that's right. So this was converted to 5-speed manual. I have a feeling that this revised piece here on the transmission cover is a result of the 5-speed conversion. But yeah, we'll get this transmission cover out and have a look at that. Got a good look at the rear upholstery here. There's a lot of rear upholstery to this car. I don't really know how these panels come out. I don't see any screws or anything, but we'll get there. And you can see the upholstery isn't so great up and in areas like this. We'll be able to make a lot of improvement. Yeah, we'll keep going and see what we find here. Get this front upholstery out. Okay, getting that tar paper up, just pulling it up. In some areas it comes up pretty easy because either the original paint didn't stick or the floor wasn't prepared properly. But I got a real nightmare in here. Yeah, I gotta get all that tar foil crap out behind the pedals, but it'll look a lot better once it's out, so I'm just going to keep persevering. You can see it here, it kind of pulls off. Yeah, it's a fight. Okay, I spent a long time getting all that tar paper off the transmission tunnel here. It was covered in that foil. It's awful stuff. When we put it back in the car, I'll show you how we do the job properly. But for now, cleaned it off while it was in place. It's much easier to get that sticky stuff off while it's fastened down firmly to the car. Took the handbrake off. Now I'm going to remove this trans cover, and I think we're going to find a Tremec 5-speed underneath. Okay. Look at that shiny new Tremec in there. Holy. Looks brand new. Wow. Fantastic. Okay, got the tunnel out of the car here, doing a bit of archaeology, trying to figure out what finish this originally was. And I think underneath that gray paint, it looks like white paint. So the top definitely looks like it was white. Underneath though, where it doesn't look like there was any paint whatsoever, just where it took the grease off here, there is no paint. So I don't quite know what these cars were painted underneath. So if anybody knows, please let me know in the comments below. I'd like to know what is the original finish of these XKs underneath. Now right here, we're looking at a bit of a cut and a weld. And that was to provide clearance for the Tremec 5-speed. So it'll be nice to get that addressed and cleaned up and get the rust out of there. Just had a quick look at the handbrake. Definitely want to refinish this. It just shows its age and use, and when we re-chrome this triple plated, it'll look like $1,000,000. So yeah, with this out of the way, let's go see what the interior of the car looks like now. Okay, now we have a full look of the interior here. Really took out all the fabric and tar paper. And what do we see here? We see the result of a lot of work being done. Got some hand-painted red primer, some white paint, probably the original finish in here. But really, really solid, looking really awesome. I mean, this looks like a bit of a mess, a lot of glue residue and various paint and whatnot, but it's a real blessing. What we have here is a car with no rust, no accidents. It's really, really great because you really don't know what you get till you peel back the layers and look at all this metal, looking original, undented and uncorroded. Yeah, I think we're gonna get new floor pieces because these ones were just made up from ply, and nice to get some ash or something nice in there. You know, another thing about this car is it has air conditioning. Look at that unit in there. And it looks like it's put in pretty tidy. You just got these 4 vents and the unit right here hiding under the footwell area. So yeah, that's gonna be definitely a consideration for both, you know, taking it apart and assembly. Gonna read the service manual and make sure we get this thing in properly and working for the ages. Right on. Looking good here. I think the doors are next. Yeah, I got that door panel off the driver's side here, and things are looking really good. I'll just grab my light, have a look down in there. Super solid, no major corrosion. So it looks like the door skin's gonna be reusable. Not gonna have to do any metal work on the door. Really happy about that. So next is just the rest of the disassembly. Got the window, the regulator, and this track has to come out. And so the way that works is there's these L brackets holding the track in here. There's actually one hiding behind this nut right here that's positioned like this. So you have to take the quarter window out just to get at this L bracket. Then all this chrome track will come up. I'll show you what that looks like. So yeah, get to some disassembly here. Okay, with this quarter window out, look at this stud in there. It was all loose. That's no good. Okay, got the quarter window out. Got all those L brackets out, a couple set screws here, and this should lift right out, leaving the glass in there with the regulator. There you go. You can see it's really doesn't have much support down below, so gotta be careful with this. Okay, with that track going, the window is pretty easy to take out here. Just roll it up and slide it out of the track. Look at that, isn't that easy? All too easy. Yeah, just having a look at some of the parts here on the bench, and taking these cars apart, it's really important to consider what you're going to do and how they're going to go back on. So for instance, have a really close look at the chrome. Look at this door handle here. It just has these slight pits, so I need to take it apart and send it to chroming. Same with this window pull handle and this little handle for the quarter window. So stuff like this, get it done now, get it out of the way, so when it's time to assemble, it's all ready to go. Same with all the hardware here. I mean, what do you do with this? Do we replace it? Do we plate it? Or do we put it on just as is? And in this case, we're doing a high-end restoration, so I'm gonna get this all CAD plated. Some of it probably was black oxide originally, but just have it all plated, have the original hardware, it'll go back together so much easier. And just one thing, a little bit of a plea here. The quarter window has a pivot. They call it a friction pivot. On the driver's side, it was busted off. That's why it's wiggling around. So if anybody has one of these, please let me know. Email supercars@gmail.com. I'd love to find another one of these pivots because you can't buy them new. All right, this door is completely stripped down. It's pretty light actually when there's nothing in it. And it's all mild steel. So what's gonna happen is this is gonna get blasted off the car and completely painted nicely inside. So the next time we see this, it's gonna look totally beautiful. But one last thing before it comes off the car, just wanna check the fit. There's some things I don't like about the fit of this door. For instance, where this top curve meets the rear part here, it just doesn't line up at all. Whereas on the passenger side, it looks really good. Another thing are the gaps. Look at this, it kind of goes wide and narrows down. And up at the front here, it has a kind of a tight spot, but the leading edge is pretty good. So definitely want to make notes and mention these things to the body guy and the paint and body shop because I want them addressed for sure. I don't want them to miss these small details either. One last thing I like to do is grab the door, see if it'll pitch up and down at all, and see if the hinges are worn out, but these are nice and solid. So yeah, just make some mental notes and prepare for what's gonna happen ahead of time. If I need new hinges, for instance, order them now rather than when we need them later. So next I'm gonna take out these rear windows. They pivot. It's kind of neat. Pivot way out, look at that, like 3 inches out. And take them out and go from there. See what we find. Okay, one last thing I have to do with these doors I forgot is just inspect the condition of the catches and the window regulators. These catches here, they always tend to go loose around this stud, so you just want to make sure it's still tight in there and not wiggling back and forth too much. That one's fine. This one's looking pretty good too, I think, because I checked it earlier. Has a little bit of wiggle, but I think it'll be fine for now. Sometimes you can find these from the Austin Healey guys because they actually use the same catch. Now the regulators, this one's been repaired because this winder crank, it always tends to wiggle loose. On the driver's side here, you can see it's wiggled loose. See if we can get this on camera here. It just tends to move too much. So I'm gonna try to repeen the rivets, and failing that, you could do a repair like this one on the passenger side and just put some machine screws in there. So you're gonna fix these up, clean them up, and they'll be ready to go back on the car. All right, got those side windows out. That came out pretty easy, just some screws holding it in. But it's these gutters that have me a little puzzled. I'll show you what I mean here. There's these aluminum gutters that are riveted onto the body. And it looks like they're painted body color, but right here you can see that the rivet heads are all painted white. So what's going on here? Was this attached to the body then painted, or was it painted then attached to the body? Now, one thing to note is that it kind of actually nestles in with the chrome finisher, so it's impossible to paint this after the fact unless you brush paint it. So maybe somebody out there knows exactly what the finish should be on this gutter. I have a hunch it's just painted white and riveted on, but maybe there's something else going on. So yeah, if anybody knows, please let me know. Okay, time to have a look at the trunk. I'm kind of doing all the shut panels, so may as well do the trunk next. Has a lot of chrome on it, quite nice. I love the way this handle is. And the logo here that exclaims all the Le Mans victories, that's pretty sweet. This chrome looks pretty good, so I don't think it'll need rechroming, although there is a dent in there. You see that? So probably gonna rechrome this piece. But yeah, just took the lid or the cover off of the inside of the trunk here, and it's really revealing. There's a lot going on, especially with regards to the construction. So you look in here, this is all ash wood, and the ash wood forms the frame structure and the metal just wraps around it. And this is real old school construction, kind of like pre-war construction that you'd see on old Bentleys and Rolls Royces and such. So it's kind of weird to see this kind of construction technique in a car that's made in the 50s. But here we go. I guess this is the best way they thought they could make this panel. Another thing I'll note is all the original hardware, it's all slotted. See that? Slotted, 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 slotted. I'm pretty sure everywhere you look on this car, it should be slotted, and that's the correct hardware for the car, even up and in here. Now this catch system's really weird. It has these rotating stars, getting focused there, and they go down to the catch here, and then when the line is pulled from the button on the handle, it just releases them. It has this, it looks kind of crude, but I think it'll work fine. One last thing, you can see that there's actually two pieces of metal here that are pop riveted together, and then they're just leaded probably on the outside. And that's the way they form that complex curve up there. So I'm going to keep going, get the catches out of here, and we can see what's hiding below this panel here too, and see what it looks like. But yeah, the rest of the trunk looks really good. All original hardware and nuts here, going to preserve them. And you can see some of the original wiring up in this corner. It's original, and we're going to get a new wiring harness from Autospark, sorry, to really freshen that up. But you can see the way it goes down and in there. It's been painted a few times. I don't think any of this red oxide paint's original either. So yeah, looking pretty good though. I don't see any signs of accident damage or corrosion, and that's what we like to see. Just taking apart the trunk here and looking at the chrome here, it doesn't line up really well. If you look on the other side here, kind of got it looks like it'll work. So plan is to hog out this hole here and get it correct before we get them painted and refinished. Get it right in the metal first. I think that's a smart way to go. So I got those taillights off. The whole back end of the car is looking really sleek. My dad's just giving us some access to underneath this panel, and you can see the jacks hiding here. Looks painted up. Got that ratchet handle for it, and the grease gun with what might be some original paper around it. But yeah, just a spare tire area here. Maybe what might be a mallet in there, but we'll get this out and have a look and see what it looks like inside there. So, been making some progress in this spare tire area here. I want to get out this well, and before I can do that, this support that the spare tire screws into needs to come out. In the previous restoration, they didn't do this job. They didn't get in here and clean it all up. Instead, they just painted it all with white and black paint. And the result is that I think we really need to get in here and get out any surface rust that might be lingering under the paint. So the process here are these hideous machine screws. You can see where the previous restorer kind of screwed up the screw heads, and they go into, they support this, they fasten down this support into a thread block here that's underneath the belly pan. And I've tried my best to heat them up, and I can't get the ones on the back side off. You can see what this one looks like here. It's in there for good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up from the bottom here. That's why I have the car jacked up. I'm gonna have to drill out all those screws in that thread block. But that'll be good. That'll let us get this belly pan out and see what's in behind there and get it treated, blasted, and painted beautifully. So that's the process. Okay, I finally got this support out. Glad I did. You can see the rust that was hiding underneath there and on the flange here. Next I want to take this wheel out. It's really tight in there. Let's see how this goes. It is. Okay, got that panel out. It doesn't really give us access to anything. I thought that maybe we'd get access to something, but no. We just see the fuel tank here. It's scalloped out for the wheel. But really nice, really glad we got into this flange area here. Look at all the rust that was hiding in there. This is gonna be all remedied, blasted down to bare and treated properly. Probably use some rust converter in this area too. So really happy to get that out. That's taking this restoration to the next level and getting deeper than the previous restoration. So really happy about that. Even if it was a little more work than I thought it was gonna be. So this will let me get in here, maybe, and heat up the captives for these because they weren't coming out, but I'm just feeling, doesn't look like I get much access in there. So you're gonna have to be creative on these guys. Maybe just heat them up from the front. Okay, got a machine screw stuck here. Just gonna heat it up first on this side with this small torch. And I'll leave it on here for quite a while till I see a lot of smoke. But this really focuses the energy right at the machine screw. See some bubbling going on, that's a good sign. Okay, it must be pretty hot now. Okay. So the next thing we do is we shock the machine screw. So I'm gonna take the screwdriver and I'm gonna pound it in. There we go. I'm gonna put a lot of weight on it. And she's moving. But I really want to be careful. Still got to hold the weight on and use the wrench to turn it, because if I get lazy, I could mar it. Yep, it's just got to be heavy on it. Relentless. And get some success here. And I won't screw up the captive nut. Well, it's a captive thread plate, really. So there we go. Look at that. You can see had so much corrosion in there, and that's what we're fighting against. But we succeeded today. Wonderful. Now there's going to be just need to clean out those threads. No need to get in there. No need to do body work. Do it correctly. Do it once. Do it right. Spent some time cleaning up this area, trying to scrape off that paint that was just painted right over the rust. That's not the way it's done properly. And it looks pretty solid, pretty impressive, really. But I think, in all actuality, this floor is going to need replacement. Show you what I mean. I busted through right there. And I'm sure once this floor panel gets media blasted, sandblasted, it's just going to be full of holes. Another area of concern is this strengthening rib. You can see it's just full of wet rust in there, and I can't imagine that's going to be good for the longevity. Also, I don't know if you can see it, but the rust is kind of pulled up this strengthening rib here. And so these strengthening ribs are full of rust. If they get wet, it's just totally terminal. So I think if we can, it'd be best to get a new floor in here and new strengthening ribs. And it's pretty easy panel to replace, just some simple flanges. So not much to that, just have to get that ordered in. Well, that does it for this episode of the XK150 project. Really just the tip of the iceberg here. We got so much further to go on this car. We got the whole drive line. Next episode, I'll show you what it looks like under the hood. As always, if you guys have any tips, tricks, comments, or trade secrets, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I read all the comments and go through them. You guys are great. So yeah, that does it for this episode. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you later. Bye-bye.